And welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's been 2 months, but we're finally back, albeit just another friendly. West Ham just drew 0-0 with Sturm Graz over in Austria in their first friendly of the pre-season. Charlie, are you glad the football's back? Are you happy to see you back on your computer?
Yeah, I'm also it distracts everyone from the impending terribleness of West Ham's transfer business. So I'm excited just to get round and just watch it and be complaining about something else for once, not the fact we haven't signed Joe Hart yet.
So, Tom, do you pay much attention to friendlies at all, or?
Not really. Not after tonight's display. Like some of the more high-profile friendlies, obviously, it's good to see a bit of competition. But really, I guess friendlies are mainly fitness builders, aren't they, for the upcoming season? And see just to have a look at a few players, see what they look like. So, but first pre-season friendly against third-tier Austrian opposition, I'm not really too bothered about how the outcome is, as long as getting fitness levels up.
Is it the same for you, Charlie? Do you look for anything in the friendlies, or are you a bit like Tom, where you just put your blinkers on and just sort of ignore what's going on in the grand scheme of things?
I quite like friendlies. I mean, they're boring as all hell sometimes, but I quite like getting to see a lot of the youth players that you might not get a chance to see otherwise get a run out, and they're always the ones who perform the best or makes the standout performances because they actually have to prove themselves. Whereas senior players obviously know they've got a position in the squad, they don't have to worry too much. So I quite enjoy watching even ones like this where it's quite a boring 0-0 draw, but you get to see someone like Nathan Holland get a chance, or Moses Makasai, someone like that. I quite like it.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a quick chat about the game. Obviously, we know it's just a friendly. It's the first friendly. So if we say anything critical of a player, we are bearing in mind it's just a friendly. And if we praise a player too much, we're still bearing in mind it's just a friendly. Tom, let's talk about the one guy in particular in the first half. He's getting a lot of stick on social media. His transfer, since he's come to West Ham, it's not gone down the great. Everybody sort of hoped he would leave. He's still here. But what did you make of Robert Snodgrass's first 45 minutes of that game?
You know what? It was good to see him involved, because I think obviously a lot of the play we saw in that first half came from down that right-hand side. And he was just frustrating. It was just like transporting back 3 months, and he was slow. He just kept losing the ball. Possession, he didn't look good with his crosses. He was, there was just a whole heap of things he didn't look good with. And I thought at times though, it was nice to see him, or having Zabaleta overlap down that right-hand side, because obviously we know, last season that communication between him and Byron was non-existent at times. But other than that, mate, he was terrible, really. And yeah, it is the first game of the season, but it is exactly what we've seen from him in the last few months. And whereas other people filled me with confidence going forward, and next few games, he just looked like the same old Snodgrass that we'd seen for the last half of the season.
Do you echo that, Charlie? I mean, for me, some of his decision making is a bit baffling at times. There was at one point, someone put him through. I can't remember who it was now. Someone put him through, and he had loads of time and space, but he ran at it, so he was going to hit it with his right foot. And I was thinking, why are you not running so you're coming onto it on your left foot? But he just ran at it and he tried to cross with his right foot. It's one of the worst crosses you could possibly do. And I was just like, what are you doing? Like, some of his decision making is baffling a little bit.
Yeah, I can remember the exact one you're talking about as well, and I'm just replaying it in my head. There were mild sparks of someone who used to play at Hull when he shifted it onto his strong foot. Like, there were the very, 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 very few occasions where he managed to sort of wobble his way inside onto his left. There were like, oh, something could happen, and then it proceeded nothing to happen. But it's just the same Robert Snodgrass it was before. He's not. It's the same, but he also is not match fit at the same time. So it's like the most pointless player on the pitch. But he wasn't that much worse than some other people. But he wasn't exactly good in any way, shape, or form.
Tom touched on it. One new sign on the pitch, Zabaleta. Charlie, what do you make of him? Did he bring a sort of touch of class to the side, or?
The two things I noticed were, in that first half, Pedro Obiang was pinging long balls all over the shop, and I don't know whether he's told to do that or whether he's been working on it or what. But there was very few short passes from him and lots of sort of crossfield balls. And there are a few times where he would ping one to Zabaleta, who would just control it down like that. Like there was no bounce, there was no miscontrol. It was really impressive, and especially when you watch certain other players in our team, it's impressive to see that sort of first touch. And the other thing was, when those long balls were going past him and stuff, you could verbally hear him talking to Pedro Obiang, saying this was good, this was like giving feedback. And that's, as the sort of senior player and the person you've heard of from Man City, the leader, the sort of charismatic guy, that's a good thing to hear, because sometimes you need someone apart from your captain to just also take up that slack and give people feedback and stuff, especially in preseason. So I was impressed, even though he didn't really do much.
Only 3 real highlights in the first half. The first one went to Sturm Graz, actually. James Collins was sort of half caught out of position a little bit. 1-on-1, good save by Adrian. And then at the other end, Holland had a shot from distance, actually, fumbled that. You could have done a little bit better. Might have done a little bit better in a competitive game. And then Fletcher had a few half chances here and there, but couldn't quite make the right connection. 0-0 at half-time. Complete change. But Charlie, in the first half, did anyone stand out for you? Were you thinking he had a good 45? Wouldn't mind seeing more of him in the next few games.
Pedro Obiang, I enjoyed seeing again. I just think he's a really classy player, and a couple of really deft small touches as well were nice. Nathan Holland looked lively again. Like I said, youth players tend to shine out, and he looked driven and like he actually wanted to do stuff. And actually Fletcher as well actually held up the ball well, got involved, dribbled past a few people sometimes. But by and large, the first half was definitely slower than the second.
Tom, same question. Who impressed you in the first 45?
Reece Burke. He really did. I think, you know, it almost reminded me of that performance that we saw from Reece Oxford against Dom Zale earlier in the year. You know, he commanded his back line superbly. You know, he's good, he's young, he's learning from Collins by all accounts, from what the commentator said, you know, that they've been working, you know, closely together. And the thing is, he didn't have much to do, but what he did do, he did very well. And he looks really good. And I just hope, obviously, I know that he'll probably may end up going out on loan for another season, but I think out of everybody, you know, he was probably out and out our best player. I think Zabaleta was good. I think the biggest critic that people had of him at Man City was that, you know, he gets caught forward too much and he doesn't have that same pace he did a few years ago to get back. But it was nice to see him sort of, you know, pushing down that fullback role, getting him behind the strikers and what he's used to, you know. And it was just a nice change to see a proper out and out. I know obviously Byron there, but like Charlie said, a well-rounded professional fullback, you know, of age with a bit of history of playing top level football. So yeah, it was good to see him in there. And obviously Nathan Holland at times when he had space in the ball, you know, his dribbling and his control was actually very good. Obviously most of that play being down the right hand side, we didn't see too much of him, but when he did get on the ball, he had a nice, you know, little cut back inside the box, little dribbling, you know, here and there. So yeah, I mean, for only 19 years old, it was a training game today, but for me, those 3 guys in the first half were fantastic.
Yeah, Burke and Holland stood out for me. I thought Zabaleta and Obiang added a touch of class. I thought Masuaku was quite good as well on the ball, but I thought Holland just offered something different. It was a bit dynamic when he got the ball. You sort of thought he could actually do something. He wasn't afraid to shoot either. That's what I want to see. Someone who's not afraid to pull the trigger. Sometimes in friendlies it can be a bit tippy-tappy and, you know, not much urgency. But with Holland, it looked like he was actually wanting to make something happen. The good thing I liked about Bert, just to add to Tom, is he was looking for the ball a lot from the keeper. Whenever it was at the back, he was sort of, give it to me and I'll push up with the ball, etc. In the second half, completely different 11 from West Ham. There wasn't much highlights though. Apart from 100 offsides for West Ham, that was pretty much it. A few times the ball went in the box. Byram and Figuli put in some half decent crosses, but not much on the end of it. Lanzini had a shot which the keeper had to make a decent save. Both keepers made decent saves actually for them. Charlie, were you happy with the second half though? I thought we were a bit sharper with the ball. I thought the passing was a little bit more slicker.
Yeah, and I think it's no surprise that there were more youth players on the pitch. You know, when you had Makase, Cullen, Fernandez, kind of a youth player, all those sort of people coming in and getting that passing a bit sharper. And then you have, whereas IU was kind of playing a second striker role, so was getting very deep into the box when people were attacking but dropping off, you had Lanzini, who was playing as his sort of traditional cam role, which helped a lot. So I was more impressed in that second half, especially as the half went on, whereas in the first half we dropped off massively and they were all clearly just worn out. The second half we seemed to be able to sustain that a bit longer, so I was definitely more impressed, Jack.
Tom, were you happy with the football we're trying to play? I thought the first half, I thought we maybe went long a little bit sometimes. A lot of people got bored. Second half, I thought the intentions were right.
Yeah, the intentions were right. I think obviously, I mean, Charlie said, the pace was a bit quick because of youth players. I just think maybe more in the second half, we just had a few more of our creative players on, in the likes of Lanzini and Faguli, who were just able to create a little bit more. And at times, the link-up play between himself and Lanzini, that is it, and Cullen was superb. Little one-touch football. Lanzini's close ball control around his feet at times, it's just absolutely incredible. And stood head and shoulders above the rest of that team, I think, in the second half. But it was the right intentions. It was just no end product. Unfortunately, Martinez couldn't really get himself onto the ball. Lanzini had a couple of shots. He had his free kick that went over, and Faguli tried to create something down the right. I saw he switched over to the left at the end, had a nice turn at the end. But like you said, the intentions were there, but just, I guess, again, being that first pre-season game, it was just difficult to create chances and actually get a shot away on goal in that second half.
Well, a couple of questions. That's the game chat over. This is more the sort of conversation side of it. Charlie, surprised we played 4-2-3-1. Is that a sort of indication? I mean, in the newspaper articles last week, we're saying we were going to be playing wing backs next season, but going by what Slav put out, both halves would indicate we're playing 4-2-3-1, or is it sort of just him using what he's got?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. I'm happy because that's the formation I prefer. I think that's the one we should be going for. I was surprised by a few little placements of specific players. Like, for some reason, Makasi still playing out on the wing, despite the fact he's a defensive midfielder. So I was surprised maybe in that second half we might have gone for like a diamond or something different. But I'm glad, because I think that's the way forward. That's the way forward for us. So I'm glad, maybe not surprised, but definitely glad.
Tom, not much clue. Joe Hart's deal sounds like it's done. We're just waiting for the announcement. But Tom, not much clue as to what keeper is going to be leaving. I was expecting maybe a little bit of an insight as to which one. I thought maybe one of them wouldn't play any part at all. But Randolph did no favours with that pass out from the.
Do you know what though? Like, of all the things, like the one game that you have, like for 45 minutes, just don't cock up, with all the talk of Hart coming and everything, maybe to try and keep yourself at West Ham or cement your place, or even if you were looking to get away from the club, someone was looking to, pick you up. And like you said, did no favours by smashing the ball at one of their players from a couple of yards out. Adrian, again, he made a couple of very nice saves in that first half, but I don't know who becomes number two now. To be fair, do we keep Adrian, and it's like, he could be a number one keeper elsewhere, and he's getting annoyed because he's not having game time. Do we take Randolph as our number two? Personally, I think Adrian should probably be allowed to go, because I do think he's deserved of that number one spot, whether it's here or somewhere else. But Randolph, frigging no favours whatsoever, especially after what happened last season, to be mucking around with the ball there. Yeah, not good.
As soon as Joe Hart is announced, / if he is announced, we'll have a video on our channel. If Joe Hart's already been announced, the link to the video will be in the description below. Last question. We always ask this question. I'm going to do it in friendlies as well as competitive ones. Charlie, who was your man of the match tonight?
Lanzini for that second half. He just was. He was head and shoulders above everyone else. He just, that close control, dribbling. Even though it was a pre-season friendly, he was still able to take it past 3 or 4 players with relative ease. So for me, Lanzini. Outside of that, probably Nathan Holland.
Yourself, Tom?
Lanzini, obviously. That second half, I think he was head and shoulders above. No pun intended there for Joe Hart, but he was head and shoulders above everybody else in that second half. It's just his creativity. You could see that. That final ball in the first half was lacking, and Lanzini almost sort of gives you that. He just gives you that edge sometimes. You just feel confident when he's on the ball. As far as youth players go, I said it. Burke probably just behind. I thought he was solid in that first half, and also Faguli looked actually interesting. Looked quite good at some points. His crossing wasn't there today, but his play out wide and little skills here and there were all right. But Lanzini for me is probably the best player today. If you pick him from a poor bunch today, yeah.
Yeah, I can't pick Lanzini because I expect that from him. So I sort of think, well, all he's done is just sort of beat Lanzini. For me, I was choosing between Holland and Burke, but as the second half went on, I was thinking Fernandez. I thought he really impressed me today, and I thought he was involved in a lot of the passing. I thought he was physically looking up for it a little bit. I know there was a sort of a youth team they were playing, but he was driving as well. I like that about him. So Fernandez for me, Lanzini from them too. Let us know what you guys think at home. Who your man of the match was. No doubt there's a lot of you are going to be a bit pissed off with Robert Snodgrass, so feel free to put that in the comments below as well. and let us know what you think. West Ham play Fulham next on Thursday night. It's a late one. I didn't realise it was so late. It's 10:15 kickoff or something. But we'll be doing Talk a Good Game straight after that one as well. So do feel free to join us at about midnight if you want to hear us talk about that. We did a new series. We've got a new series. It's just to cover the end of the summer. It's called If I Were Slav, where a few people will be answering questions if they were the West Ham manager. Charlie's had a little go at it, and the link to his video is on your screen right now. But anyway, Charlie, say good night.
Good night.
Tom, say good night.
Yeah, what is this? Yeah, see you later. See you on Thursday night.
Make sure you subscribe. We'll see you Thursday night. Thank you for joining us.